You're listening to the Career Plus Life Catch-Up, episode number 38. Welcome to the Career Plus Life Catch-Up, a show anchored in reality to help you create a balanced life where you enjoy both your work and your life, because you don't have to choose. I'm your host, Cecile Ferry, a corporate executive turned coach and working mom. This is your place for insights, advice, and tools to optimize your career direction, balance, and confidence. I'm so glad you're here. Let's get into it. Hello, beautiful people. How are you doing this week? So I am back with another episode, hoping to be able to keep up the back-to-back weekly episodes for as long as I can. It is not easy in the current climate, and if you're listening to me from Australia, you will probably relate at stuff with those lockdowns and homeschooling, the lack of holidays. That means some frustrations, some disappointments, and a lot of limitations. So this podcast is one thing that gives me some energy. So I consciously choose to spend time doing it to lift my spirits. So you may need to find something like this in your life right now, whatever that is for you. Just that one or two things that you know will make you feel good or make you feel accomplished afterwards. So just go and do that, and that's enough. So this week I want to go into the past and rediscover with you all the rich insights that are in your past for your Career Plus life. It can be tough right now to feel like the future is bright or that we have lots of room to make the progress that we want. So one thing that we can do is to tap into our past in order to realize and remember our power and our potential. Because we are quick to move on and to focus forwards, like wanting the next thing, the next goal, or wanting more. And the power of what we have done in the past does not especially matter or carry us through. Somehow we tend to value what's ahead of us more than what we have achieved in the past. Have you noticed? It's that mentality of I will be happy when, which is, as I have found, the perfect trap for unhappiness now, when we have got that future focus. And therefore, we focus on when we don't have and when we're going to have it. It's a really tough place to be happy right now. So let's ditch the future vision for a minute and go for a trip down memory lane to your past to revisit all the learnings and the gifts that you can take to help you shape your life today. We are going to talk about past successes, past failures, and how they translate into the design of your Career Plus life right now. Are you ready? Let's get into it. This podcast episode was prompted by an exercise that I was doing on listing my past wins. And I would like you to start there with me. So maybe pause this podcast if you can. Go and grab a piece of paper and start with that, just listing all of your past wins, large or small, it doesn't matter. And if you can't write, maybe just hit pause on the podcast and do it in your head. That's a good start. See what pops up and go back as far as you want to. Take your time. There is no minimum or maximum to aim for, but the more the better, like the richer for what we're going to talk about. So you will get the obvious ones quickly, but you might have to dig a little deeper for the next layer of wins. So keep asking yourself, what else? What else? What else? So you might find those that you may not initially count as a win. Let's go really wide and look at all the things that you have achieved, all the difficulties you have overcome, all the creations that you have birthed, the illnesses that you have healed from, all the changes in your lifestyle, and so on. So go and do this and come back to the podcast. Now, looking back on your list, let me ask you 3 big questions that we're going to dive into. The first question is, what area or what areas of your life do your wins fall into? Is there one or several areas that are maybe overrepresented or underrepresented? Especially look at what came intuitively to you as your thought of past successes. In other words, what do past successes equal to you? When I did this exercise, for me, I found that a good 70% of my list related to professional achievements. Wow, that was kind of an eye-opener, and that's why I just kept thinking and asking about other kind of achievements and past wins, and what just kept coming to me was work related. So it was about job successes, career changes, and my business. So it might be the same for you, or it might be a completely different area that came up for you, like your family, your romantic life, your health, your finances. So what this question is revealing are your past values, your past beliefs about success. So it's no surprise to me that I was chasing career success, job satisfaction, and professional recognition, as these are values that were quite solidly ingrained into me growing up. And isn't it incredible to see that we become what we believe? So maybe for you, the values passed on focused on something else, on building a loving family, and you did just that. Maybe it was about never running out of money, and you did just that too. So that is the first level of analysis of your past wins. Now here's the second question. It's a little bit harder. In front of your wins, your achievements, list the main emotions that you felt at the time. Don't overthink it. Just tune into that past event like you are reliving it and feel the emotion, the vibration that goes with it. Do this as you go down the list for all your achievements. Then look at all the emotions that you wrote. What were the common ones? Is there a thread? It's very likely that there is a thread, that there is a pattern. So I'm going to give you some examples of emotions that you might find to put you on the track if you're finding it hard to label. Love, connection, belonging, joy, pride, passion, trust, confidence, self-harmony, excitement, togetherness. So for me, when I looked at my list, the main emotions that were brought in the first 35 years of my life were growth and recognition. But in the last few years, I could see the emotions changed and were more focused on love and self-harmony. So do this work for you and see if all emotions are congruent over time or if there is a shift over time. And really do that list and come up with the top, let's say, 3 to 5 emotions that can be found in all of those past wins. Now, third and final question. Who were you being as you accomplished those things? So here we are looking at your past identity as if you were looking from outside yourself. So don't look at the actions you took or who helped you and what happened. Look at the person who accomplished those things. How would you describe her? Use some adjectives to qualify your personality, your style, and what you stood for at the time. For instance, for me, tuning back, looking at those past wins, I was a very driven, career-minded, and fiercely independent person. I was hardworking, very focused, and committed to excellence in what I did. I was extremely perseverant, like I wouldn't give up until I got there. I had a ton of determination. Also, I didn't think too much about any of my shortcomings. I was very confident, in a way, quite blindly confident. So do the same kind of back vision work for yourself and reconnect with the person that you were back then. The description might be completely different from mine, especially since we might share very different achievements. So you could have been very altruistic, very caring or giving. You could have been a people pleaser. You could have been very unafraid. Like, just draw the contours of that person that you were, because it's super important to understand who you were to get the results that you got. So now let me bring all these 3 questions together when we look back on your wins, and we are going to make sense of all of those insights to help inform your present and your future. Firstly, are you happy with the representation of your wins across the various areas of your life today? Does it feel a bit off for you as you are today? Does it feel unbalanced or simply not as truly you anymore? In other words, have your values changed? This is very likely, I would say, in my experience and when working with my clients. And that's okay. The important work is to identify what drove your results and goals then versus what they are today. For me, I can see that as much as I appreciate all my career wins in the past, what feels true to me these days is a better balance across work and the other areas of my life, especially my romantic relationship, my health, and my finances. So look for you, what is the ideal sort of spread of your wins across the different values and the areas of your life that really matter to you. Then secondly, when we move on to the emotions that we discussed, and you look at that list of that top 3 to 5, how do you feel about them today? Are they the emotions that bring up the most happiness for you? Are they emotions you would choose to feel if you had to rank them in order of importance? Or if, let's say, you could only choose to feel a certain number of emotions on a daily basis, would you pick those ones? So there is no bad emotions, but for each and every one of us, the various emotions listed will bring up different reactions and different vibrations. So have a look at your list, and I would say pick the top 2, which we will call your primary emotions. And again, ask yourself, do these align with the emotions I want to feel every single day in my life right now? Because these primary emotions are like the backbone, the driving energy behind your life at the moment. If you feel them on a daily basis, you will feel content, joyful, happy, and on purpose. That's all it takes. Emotions. Yes, our purpose is anchored into something we do. But the truth is that our sense of purpose is actually delivered to us through the emotions that we feel when we do those things. So, do your past primary emotions still match your current ones? Or have your emotional needs shifted? This is a big question, but such an important one. Because if you stop to think about it for a minute, everything you do right now is to feel a certain way. So what could be more worthwhile than to stop and think about what emotions make you feel the best every single day? Finally, looking at who you were being at the time. Does this person still feel like you today? Does this person feel like she wasn't her true self at the time? Does she feel like she was influenced by external people, like parents and teachers? Or does she feel free? I think this is really worthwhile, doing this review of your past and to take note of what personality traits delivered what results. Because you can always go back and borrow that part of you again if you want to achieve the same kind of results. In fact, it will be really easy for you as you've already done it. But it's also okay to feel like, this version of me did very well at the time, but that's not who I want to be now or in the future. and to design the future version of you that feels more aligned with who you are right now. And this is done by tapping into your own intuition, because no one knows you at a soul level better than yourself. And if you, like me, feel like who you were being at the time wasn't your true self, don't beat yourself up. You have developed through all those years and those wins a great side, like a great facet to yourself that you can call on at any time if you need. Think of it like having added a couple of wings to your side. It didn't take away anything. It just did develop you and grow you further. But now might be the time to look at your core self more and to tap into that to drive your future results. So as you can see, our past wins are full of treasures, of learnings, if we take the time to travel back there and see ourselves from that perspective of understanding who we were and what drove us at the time. And then we are fully free to change from that or to keep up with that. If you want to change from a little to a lot, like there is no rule. You can do this work by yourself, or you can do this work with a coach, where we go deeper into patterns of behaviors and of results in your life, and we match this with patterns of feelings and thoughts. But this is always to help you inform the now and the future. It is not about trying to rewrite the past. It's about getting to know yourself better. And a little hint for you. The you that you are today is probably similar to the you that you have been in the past. I mean by that this is what will come to you more naturally, because it's the practiced path in your mind and in your subconscious. Those values, those emotions, those personality traits expressing themselves. They've been practiced over and over. So they are what's natural, what's familiar to you. But that doesn't mean you cannot change them. You can consciously make other choices, and then it's about catching yourself when the old tendencies come up, because they will, and then to make other choices. And it's about practicing feeling a certain way on purpose, which may not feel familiar at the start. So to do this, you need to find actions or activities that create that feeling for you and start doing them more frequently. So it's like a reverse engineering way of creating new feelings. So you can do this, and it all starts with you being aware of who you've been and the results you created and who you want to be now. The other part of your past I wanted to explore in this episode are your past failures. I know who wants to go there, but my friend, bear with me. We are not here to dig out old pains or to shame ourselves. Not on this podcast. But I want you to look at them with the same perspective that we took with your wins. You know, that analytical, that detached, that sort of inquiring view of yourself. So like you did for your past wins, look at your past failures and just start listing them down. And pause the podcast, think about them, come back. So look at all the things you attempted that didn't work out. The rejections, the lack of results, the silence, the nothing that you got, the things that look very close but then escape you by that much. Or like the excruciating processes you went through at times to get to something. The things that cost you dearly. The job losses, the interview rejections, the breakups, the troubles conceiving, the perfect house you missed out on, the exam failures. Like, go for it, list them all. It may be that you have a hard time finding many examples. You may have one or two and then you're kind of like, I don't know. And that was me before. Because I had developed such an aversion to failure and a belief system about protecting myself at all costs against them that I did not experience them as much. It actually worked. So I thought, In fact, I didn't experience them in the areas of my life where I was controlling a ton in order not to fail. But eventually, even though that kind of works in the short term and has a very heavy cost for doing all that control and that focus on not failing, but eventually even that did run its course for me. And the cost of such control over time brought me down to a halt and forced me to experience some degree of failure. So in my experience, you can never be fail-proof and protect yourself 100% against failure. You might be able to delay them. You might be able to shelter yourself from a couple, but it's just part of life. I also experienced failures in other parts of my life where I wasn't focused too much on success, like in my romantic life, in my finances, and in my health. So if you can't see many failures in your past, it's probably because you were wired to avoid them at all costs too, like me. But there might be some collateral failures or a lack of achievements as you did this. Or there might be a delayed effect with failure coming much later. So again, look at patterns across all areas of your life with all those failures. Do they tend to be concentrated in one or two areas more than the others? You might find, like me, that failures might have happened in other areas than where you experience success. It's like the reverse print of this. So have that look, list them all, and look which areas they fell into. Now, the next question for you on failure is one I particularly love. Take them one by one and look at them in the context of now. What did turn out afterwards? What did that failure made you do? What was the next consequence? What other door opened as a result of failing this? I love doing this because we realize that the way our life was woven after a past event was unexpected and often for the best. So we realize that failures are just part of life. They are a way to detour us. We all have those detours, those failures. So it's super important to spend some time retracing them to see what happened from there that led to what. For example, for me, I failed at my exams to enter prestigious business schools in France. It was devastating for me. I had studied super hard for 2 years, made the biggest sacrifices, and then just failed all the top schools. But then, if I look, the consequence was that I went to a B-level school where, yes, I was bored, but I got excellent grades without doing very much. And in that school, I was able to choose a spot to travel to Australia on an exchange program. And fast forward to today, 20 years later, that led me to having and building an amazing life here. So for you, what was it? Like, look at the failures that put you on a different path that allowed you to be where you are today. Doing this review of past failures also allows you to see that in spite of them, you did okay. Things turned out okay. More than okay, I bet. We are so afraid naturally of future failures, but when we look back and we see in our past that yes, they did sting at the time, but they don't matter as much at the scale of our lives today, and they don't sting into the future. We can also see where those failures made us stronger, they grew our resilience and made our skin thicker, sometimes automatically without us even consciously doing it. Then finally, we can look at the patterns here too, of where we have repetitively failed. This is also a great lesson. Granted, probably one of the hardest, because it means that we are not meant to do this. I know this can be really hard to accept. I have seen clients who have gone from one redundancy to the next and to the next, or from one business failure to the next, to the next, to the next. And sometimes we don't even see it, we don't realize it because we're trying to reach a goal. But sometimes we think we want a particular thing, but it is not our purpose. It is not aligned with our true self. But it might feel true to us, especially if we've lost or not practiced that connection with ourselves. If we have developed a pattern of listening to external sources for a long period of time, or having others deciding for us, we possess a guidance system that is erroneous. It doesn't quite work as it's supposed to. And often then we don't know it in those instances. We've got those goals, we fail, and then we get stuck in analysis paralysis and we wonder what's wrong with us. So past failures, especially similar ones, are powerful indicators that you may not have been following your true purpose. You may have been following someone else's purpose for you, or you may have been scared to follow your own purpose. Finally, the last tool I want to leave you with, looking at your past failures, is to classify them into 3 different buckets: redirections, self-sabotage, and misalignments. So redirections happen because something else or something better happened afterwards or instead. Self-sabotage is because you didn't believe you could. It felt too good to be true, or nobody around you was sharing that kind of success. So you sabotage your way unconsciously. And misalignments, it's because you were living on someone else's path for you, or you didn't have what it took at the time, or it was the wrong timing for you. I can guarantee you 99% of your failures will fall into those 3 categories. It's either something else that was meant to be, or you let your fears or limiting beliefs get the better of you, or you needed to realign yourself. Either way, failures are part of life, part of the human experience. We are taught in our societies to avoid them, especially to avoid feeling them. So we spend a great deal of time and effort to prevent them. But look in your past. They are there and you are here. This review of failures can help you see that there is nothing big to fear outside some really bad feelings at the time. So projecting now into your present and your future, now that you know failure is a part of life, failure can be a redirection and a detour. What is there to fear in the future? What step are you not taking right now for fear of failing? And you can just go and do it and trust that you will be redirected if it's not right for you. Thank you for listening to this episode where we went into your past, reviewing the wins and the failures, and we made a lot of sense of them in order to inform your future. So let me leave you with the 3 key takeaways from this episode. Number 1, past wins reflect your values, your beliefs about yourself, and your ways of being at the time. See if that's still true for you today, or to what extent, or if you need to rebalance or update some of them in order to get new wins that feel more aligned for you today. It's like you will get wins anyway, so you might as well design them on purpose. Takeaway number 2. Past failures show you that they are part of the fabric of your life. They brought you to where you are or made you reassess and change course. They are not to be feared, and instead you can think of them as detours in the right direction. Takeaway number 3. Realize how powerful you are, how able you were at the time, both in succeeding and in overcoming your failures. And use that energy and bring it into your present reality and direct it into what you want to achieve and intentionally design what you want next. There is nothing like a boost from your past to give you confidence today. So always go back to it in times of needs. In fact, it may help to have someone in your life to remind you of your past successes and your capacity to overcome failures. This might be your best friend, a sister, your mom, or you can just do it yourself. Write yourself a letter to summarize everything you've learned about yourself through this episode and through doing that work. Or simply use your phone and record a message to yourself that you can listen to when you are feeling down or fearful. Because we forget. We focus our attention on our fears and what we could lose or what might go wrong. So we need those intentional reminders to carry us through. Have a beautiful week, everybody, and keep those wins coming. I'll speak to you soon. Thank you for listening. If you enjoyed this episode and would like to find out more information, you can visit my website at careercatchup.com. There you will find blog articles, free resources, a self-study course for your career direction, and ways to work with me. It's at careercatchup.com. I hope to continue to connect with you and support you. Talk to you soon.